everyone, it's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy and Profitable Play. And you might notice that I am wearing another one of my heart shirts today. If you're watching this video as it gets released, it's just about Valentine's Day, a couple weeks away. But I've noticed that some of you guys have been reaching out to me or just mentioning it in passing that I seem to wear a lot of heart shirts, especially around Valentine's Day. And a lot of people just assume that Valentine's Day is like one of my favorite holidays. It really isn't. It's so funny. I never really celebrated it. I never bought any decor or anything like that. But my son, Silas, who's now 6, was actually born with like literally a perfect heart-shaped birthmark. And ever since then, I've been collecting all sorts of stuff with hearts on it. Shirts, sweaters, home decor, mugs, anything like that with hearts on it, I absolutely love. So I've grown really fond of Valentine's Day over the last couple years because I love that all the heart stuff is out in the stores. I love decorating with it. And I've become such a sucker for this holiday just because of the whole heart implication. So if you're one of those people who has been kind of wondering about why I wear hearts so much, that is the story behind it. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. This video is actually going to be a part 2 to my splurge versus save video that I posted a little bit ago. Now, it's funny, as I sit here recording this video, I haven't even released part 1 yet, but as I laid my head down that night after I recorded that video, I just thought of so many other things that I forgot to talk about. And I wanted to get started first with something that I forgot to mention in part 1. So again, I'm going to be releasing this just a few days after part 1, and this one's going to be a little bit shorter. So I know the last one was a lot. I covered so many different things. This one's going to be a little bit more rapid fire. But before we get into today's video, I just wanted to remind you that if you're interested in working with me or any of my free or paid resources or programs or guides or anything like that, everything is listed in the video description, as is all of my website information, my social media profiles, everywhere you can connect with me. So please feel free to visit those links while you're watching this video if you're ready to take the next step after watching this content. And again, this is kind of one of my videos that is a little bit more silly, a little bit more lighthearted. I've been doing that a lot more lately, and you guys seem to be enjoying it. So if this is a video style that you like, don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't yet, and let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos like this that still delivers great actionable information, but in more of a fun, lighthearted way. All right, so the first thing I wanted to mention before we get into the next couple splurge versus save items is, again, something that I forgot in part 1. One of my splurge suggestions from part 1 was gross motor play equipment. And I said that because of safety and aesthetics and long-term quality, I really, again, recommended splurging on gross motor play items. Again, I visited so many indoor playgrounds in person, probably hundreds at this point, more than any person should, unless you're like Flippy or something. And I can absolutely tell once I get close the difference in a larger investment piece versus something that might be from like Alibaba or something like that. And I'm not knocking that whatsoever, but it's just something that you have to know what you're getting into before you invest in it. So a lot of indoor playground owners that buy something that is, on the less expensive side, they know, I'm only going to get 1 to 2 years of use out of this. And that's fine because I want to change up my play equipment, or I want to do something new after that, or, I'm okay with making replacements and things like that. So that is absolutely fine. I am in no way knocking these retailers. But one thing I wanted to mention is that you can absolutely still save money and get those high quality brands that I mentioned in part 1. So I'm going to link part 1 in the video description as well in case you missed it and want to go back and watch it, because I talked about playhouses, again, gross motor play equipment. And that would be buying it. A way to do that to get, again, those high quality brands and pieces of equipment without spending full retail price is to buy it used. There are so many, unfortunately, businesses that have listed a lot of their gross motor pieces for sale, whether it be due to reorganizing their play space, changing up their theme, closing or shutting down, relocating, anything like that. There are often so many people listing Cedar Works items, Tiger Play items, Safe Space Concept items, all of these different brands that I mentioned again in part one for sale at a fraction of the cost as what you would pay buying it new. So that's a great way to, again, still splurge in terms of quality, but save a lot of money. One way that we were able to save a lot on our playhouses, for example, and I know I'm kind of getting into playhouses where I started talking about gross motor play, but we actually bought from Lilliput Playhomes. The reason that our playhouses were less than what you might expect, again, I think our bakery was retailed for around $18,000, $19,000 at the time back in 2015. And we were able to get it for just over $14,000. And that's because we purchased the conference, the like roadshow one that they used. So they had set it up for all sorts of trade shows and things like that. So while it had never been actually played in, it was technically used. So we bought it straight from the company. They came and assembled it, but we were able to save a lot of money. And I know that Lilliput Playhomes is not the only vendor that does that. So there are ways to, again, save money in this area, but still splurge in terms of quality. So ask about trade show models or models that have been used in the past, or look on the secondhand market. There are some things to be cognizant of when you're buying gross motor equipment secondhand. You definitely want to visit it before paying any money. And just keep in mind, it's going to cost a lot to transport if you're looking to buy something, for example, like across the country. It's not something that you can just ship, at the post office. And I know that's obvious, but a lot of people really underestimate the cost that it takes to load and transport these items. So I would visit it first. I would make sure that it's been very well maintained. I would make sure that it's at least already disassembled, or it can be disassembled, or they're willing to knock a certain amount off the price if you need to disassemble it. So I would definitely inspect it in terms of quality and maintenance. I would ask if it's still under warranty. A lot of manufacturers, like for example, Cedar Works Play, a lot of them will void their warranty if something has been disassembled and then reassembled in a second location. So again, these are all things to ask about. And I would also ask your insurance provider if it's okay to purchase the secondhand gross motor equipment. Some will be absolutely fine with it. Some will have some questions, and some will say, no, we are not going to cover your business if you purchase X, Y, and Z secondhand. So while I think it's a great option and definitely makes a lot of these more high-end brands more feasible for indoor playground owners, again, these are some things that you need to think about while you are looking for these secondhand items. So again, I forgot to mention that in part one, but again, moving right along, I want to talk about coffee equipment now. And if you're not quite sold yet on why your indoor playground or play cafe should absolutely have a cafe component to it, I have an entire 5-episode podcast series on all of the different ways that you probably haven't even thought of yet about how adding a cafe to your indoor playground plans could absolutely benefit the long-term sustainability and profitability of your business. So I'm going to link to that podcast series again in the video description. I know so many people are very hesitant about the cafe side, especially if they have no coffee experience or if they're afraid of the upfront investment. But I really want to encourage you to listen to those episodes with an open mind and an open heart, because again, I really think a lot of the things that I mentioned probably haven't even popped into your mind yet. So I'm going to link that. But actually, with coffee equipment, I'm going to go with Save. And I can't remember which side for part one I did Save versus Splurge, but for this one, we're going to go with Save on this side of me. And I want to do a caveat. So a lot of people assume when I say you can save money on your coffee equipment, they assume I mean, don't buy commercial grade. It's okay to have a home-based espresso machine or something like that. That's not commercial grade. That is not what I mean here. If you are going to be serving more than 2, 3, 4, 5 lattes a day, you absolutely need a commercial grade espresso machine. Trust me, I've seen so many people try to do it with home machines. It can often take an hour to heat back up after making 1 or 2 lattes, or 2 hours. They are just not made for anything other than individual family use. So even the espresso machines that are $200-$300, if they're meant for home use, they are not going to work in a commercial setting. And also your health department is probably not going to get on board with distributing a license to you if you're not using commercial equipment. So I don't mean skimp in that way. I mean, you can absolutely buy espresso machines used. That's what we did. We went to a secondhand restaurant retailer that was by us. They're no longer in business, but they basically bought equipment from cafes and restaurants that were going out of business. And we bought almost everything for our entire kitchen. So our fridge, our dishwasher, our espresso machine, our prep tables, our mop sinks, our 3-bay sink. We bought everything for our entire kitchen operation secondhand, and we saved tens of thousands of dollars on it. And most of it was very gently used. It was well maintained. And what I love about buying from these secondhand retailers that are actually, businesses reselling, so they're not individual businesses reselling, it's actually a certified retailer, is they will often offer some sort of guarantee. So for us, all of their refurbished items, so again, our espresso machine was included in that. The espresso machine came with their own warranty. So they basically said, we've inspected and refurbished this machine. We are going to support it, fix it, maintain spare parts, anything like that for up to 2 years. And that was really a great selling point for us because we did end up having some issues with it and we were able to get support no problem. So I would highly recommend looking at the secondhand market. And the second thing I wanted to say about coffee equipment is that, and this was recently brought up in Playmaker Society, is that it's okay to start with a smaller scale cafe with a very simple coffee and espresso based menu, and then work your way up to a more complex menu. So for us, we only had a single head espresso machine, meaning we could only make one set of espresso shots at a time. We could only steam milk it one set at a time. So a lot of espresso machines will have a milk steamer on each side. They'll have multiple espresso components. Ours only was able to make one drink at a time. And we definitely had the volume to support two, but I thought it was really important, again, to save in this area. So I want to encourage you, even if you plan on having a bustling cafe, it's okay to start with a single head machine, which is going to be several $1,000s less than a double or triple headed machine, one that you would see at a full service cafe or like a Starbucks or something like that. It's okay to start small. You can always resell it and then again purchase a bigger machine once you've worked your way up to a sustainable cafe sales amount. So once you've, let people know that you offer cafe items, once it starts to become a really popular offering, you can always upgrade. And a lot of my Playmaker Society members, myself included, what they have done is, again, started with that simple menu and then upgraded eventually to offer ice drinks and then eventually upgraded to offer blended drinks. So the drinks that have like ice blended in them. We didn't have a blender when we first started, and we very rarely got asked about blended drinks. Less enough where we actually started to do blended drinks and then we backtracked and simplified because they just weren't popular enough for us to sustain an ice machine and all of the different cleaning components and stuff that went into creating blended drinks. But again, all that said, you can save so much money on your cafe equipment by starting small and simple and looking secondhand. Just make sure you inspect the maintenance on the machine and make sure that it actually works, and try to go for a reseller that offers some sort of warranty. All right, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, this was one of those ones that popped into my head like as I was laying down to rest, because a lot of people try to skimp in this area, and that is the gate leading into your play area. So if you plan on having like wide open spaces and your play area isn't going to be sectioned off, this probably doesn't apply to you. But for us, we had our cafe on one side and we had our play area on the other side. And in my travels and visiting play cafes, I have seen so many indoor playgrounds skimp on the gate and have to replace it every couple months, or it's an eyesore, or it's a baby gate and it's really difficult to operate because, again, this is one of those things that when somebody is entering your play area, your gate is almost like the first impression. It's the first experience somebody has with the quality and the thought that you put into designing the play area aspect of your space. So I can't tell you how many times I've sat and just watched people fumble with and get frustrated with and struggle with these, low quality or baby gates that were designed for home use, and they fall off. Again, our second location, they, skimmed in some areas they really shouldn't have. Again, I talk about that a lot. one of the things was the gate to get into the play area. It was always falling off. Kids were always just running in and out. People were getting their fingers pinched in it. We, on the other hand, for our first location, because remember our second location was licensed, so it had a second set of owners. Our first location, we actually, because we redid our floors and everything, which I recommended in part 1 of this video, we had our gate, like we had a pole that sturdied the gate. We had a plexiglass gate with an actual like white picket fence, with plexiglass supporting it. We actually cemented that pole into the ground. And again, this is one of those things that you don't really realize until you're in it. You don't realize how rough kids and even adults are with the play area gates. I can't tell you how many kids would just stand there and like do this with the gate during birthday parties, during open play, during anything that we offered. And a lot of people will say, it's not the kids, it's the parents. And I completely 100% agree with that. And I wish all parents shared the sentiment that I do, that if I take my kids out in public, I know that, I'm going to have to monitor them. If they're doing something that's not right, I'm going to have to correct that behavior. Unfortunately, most parents don't share that view. And a lot of times, if they're paying to play at a facility, they just let their kids run wild and they kind of zone out on their phone and they kind of view it as your problem, despite rules, despite signing a waiver, despite understanding that it's not a supervised play area. Again, I'm telling you, this is just something that all of my current owners out there are probably nodding their heads like, yes, yes, yes. And all of my prospective owners are saying, that would never happen to me. I would never let a child do that to my gate, or I would ensure that the parents would step in. Trust me on this one. You definitely want to splurge on the gate going into your play area, because it's going to be something that is going to be a constant headache for parents, for staff, for yourself. And I don't want to see you having to spend a ton of money down the road to correct a mistake that could have so easily been prevented in the opening process. So if you do plan on having your play area be separated from any other part of your business, I want to make sure that you have durability and longevity in mind when you're making that decision with your architect or your interior designer, whoever you're working with to actually execute your space. Just know it's going to need to be 1,000 times more durable than you think it's going to be. And again, a lot of my members use Everblock walls and things like that, and I'm so glad that that works for them, especially in the more imaginative, smaller spaces. That was just not my experience. And again, it was always a pain point for us, even though we had cemented it in, because again, we were constantly always worried that it was going to fall over because of all of the heavy, heavy, heavy use. So just keep durability in mind. And I'm going to again say splurge when it comes to the play area cafe divide. All right, the next thing I wanted to mention is surveillance. And I just put out a YouTube video recently about why it's so important to have a video security system in your indoor playground. And it's funny because it's one of my lesser watched videos, but it's so important because I think a lot of people looked at it and said, well, obviously we need a security system because, we need to prevent theft and we need to have video in case of an emergency. But there are so many reasons why you need a video surveillance system that are probably not obvious. So I'm going to link that in the video description as well. Again, I would highly recommend going back and watching that video. But we were able to save a ton of money on our video surveillance system by going local. So instead of going with ADT or any of those national surveillance or security companies, I Googled commercial surveillance or commercial security or commercial surveillance system in, at the time, Rochester, New York. And I got a bunch of local numbers. I called all of them. I sent over the blueprints for our space. I got quotes. I got to talk to the owners. I got to talk to a lot of the technicians. And I went with a company that I got a good feel from, that had great support, and were able to meet the needs and really understand what our business needs were. So I highly recommend shopping local in this area, because I did get a lot of quotes from those larger national chains. And again, shopping local not only gave us a much higher level of service in terms of when the alarm would actually go off and all that good stuff, but we also saved so much money, and they were able to come out and support us if one of our cameras wasn't working or if we needed to retrieve tapes or had any technical issues. So You can save not by skimping on your security system, but by shopping local. So again, I'm going to link the video about our security system and all the ins and outs of that, but definitely you can save in this area. All right, three more. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is hiring a manager. And I know I'm giving you guys a lot of homework to do after this video, but I also have a podcast series about why it is absolutely essential to at least have a part-time shift supervisor or manager on staff. So I'm going to link that in the video description. It's definitely a must watch. But one way that I recommend being able to afford this, and again, I have like an entire 40-minute episode about how you can allow yourself to afford a manager. One of the things that I recommend in that episode is hiring based on work ethic, on attitude, on values, not necessarily hiring based on managerial experience. Because I was really confident, and something that I help my students be confident in, something that I was really confident in was being able to train someone in managing a team and in leadership. So we were able to save a lot of money by hiring someone as a manager in their first managerial role. We found that when we were looking for somebody with manager experience or, anything like that, they needed a wage that was so high that it just priced us out of hiring them. I'm not saying that those people were not deserving of that wage or were overqualified or anything like that. But as a brand new startup business who really wanted to be conservative in terms of our monthly expenses, again, I highly recommend hiring based on how well that person fits within your business. And again, their attitude and their work ethic over their experience, because it's so much better to have somebody that is easy to work with, that is adaptable to change, that is willing to learn, than hiring somebody with experience that's going to come in and not want to adapt to your systems, not want to learn any new things, and kind of want to come in and run the show. And again, this is just my experience, and I know I'm glossing over so many of the inner workings about hiring and training and how to look for a manager, what traits to look for, and things like that. But again, I'm going to direct you to that podcast episode. But a lot of people think, well, my business can't afford a manager when we're first opening, or it's too expensive. I can't see myself hiring a manager ever. I just wanted to throw it in there again without too much explanation, because I have that elsewhere, by again encouraging you that you can save in this area. There are definitely ways to save. And that's part of the reason why I created my podcast. So again, listen to that episode. You can absolutely save when you're hiring a manager and still find a great addition to your team that is going to propel your business in ways that you never even imagined, and save your mental health. All right, the next thing I wanted to mention is something that I talk about in so many videos, but that is on your lease. And I'm definitely going to go with save when it comes to choosing a location. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I talk about it in so many videos that I will also link. But a lot of people assume that they need to be in the most, highly sought after town, or in a plaza that gets a ton of traffic, or on the busiest street in their area in order to be successful. But I'll say here again briefly what I say in all of those other videos. Indoor playgrounds, especially if you're going to be focusing on memberships or on birthday parties or anything that I recommend in my other content, you're going to become a destination. And I don't know about you, but I'm a parent of two little kids, and there has never been a single time where I have just been driving or I've been in a plaza running errands and saw an indoor playground and thought, oh, that place looks cool. I'm going to unpack my kids. I'm going to derail our plans. I'm going to just wing a visit there and stop by. And that might be feasible for somebody who has, kids that are potty trained, kids that don't nap anymore, kids that are, older than school age, like 6 and above. But if your vision for your space is to accommodate babies, toddlers, preschoolers, parents are not just going to, on a whim, visit your space because they see it. And even if they mean to look up your space later or say, oh, wow, that place looks cool, I'm going to look it up on Instagram later. Parents have a million different things going on in their heads. They will forget. There are so many more less expensive ways to get in front of your ideal customers than by spending a premium on rent that is not going to do enough for your business to justify the cost. So when I have people come to me and say, I'm torn between those two locations, one is a little bit more remote, you can't see it from the street, but I'm going to be able to save $5,000 a month. And the second lease that I'm torn between is, it's again $5,000 more expensive. It's the exact same size, exact same, what's included, stuff like that. But it's on a super busy street, or it's next to a school, or it's next to a dance studio. Again, I promise you, you can spend much less than even a couple $1,000s a month on other aspects of your business that are going to do much more to get you traffic, to book you parties, to again get you in front of your ideal customers than that extremely expensive lease will get you. So, yes, increased visibility is good, but it often isn't enough, again, to justify that increased lease cost. So, I'm going to go save in terms of your location. And again, I'm going to link to all of the videos where I really go into choosing a location in more detail. But the last thing that I wanted to mention in today's video, and honestly, I think I have like a part 3 and part 4 in me, so let me know if you want to hear more. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about was signage. And I went back and forth on this one because I've seen people be very successful with like just vinyl signs hung at the front of their business, spending a couple $100s on them. But I actually went splurge on signage because again, it's something that parents notice. It's something that is one of the first things parents will see when they're walking into your business, and it really just sets the tone. So we spent around $13,000 on our sign, which I think was way too expensive. So I'm not saying you need to spend $13,000 to $20,000 on a, really intricate sign. But what I am saying is spend a little bit of money to upgrade above like a vinyl banner for your sign. Invest in something that clearly and accurately shows not only your logo, but also what you offer. So I love when people on their sign include something like cafe, play, parties, or classes, parties, something like that, something that just gives people a very quick description of what you offer. I love signs that are that light up at night or are backlit. So our sign was acrylic and lights shone down on it so that it could be very visible at night. I think that again will give you a definite leg up amongst your competitors, especially if you are in a busy area, which again, you don't necessarily need to be. But again, elevating your sign, even just spending a few $1,000s on your sign, again, above and beyond just a vinyl banner stating your logo and things like that, it's really going to, again, set the tone for your business and allow you to charge a lot more for open play memberships, parties, because again, the more you put into your business, the more you're going to get out. And as I've explained through the series, you don't need to splurge in every single aspect to make your customers have a good experience or to provide a wonderful environment or to have great parties. But this is just one of those things, again, in visiting so many different indoor playgrounds, I can tell almost right away by the outside signage, by what their windows look like, by what other signage looks like throughout their building. I can absolutely tell what kind of experience I'm going to have just by that first impression. And I also don't just mean your outside signage. I mean your rules and policies that you have. If you just have a poster taped to your wall or something handwritten or just a piece of computer paper taped to your check-in counter, that's going to be very telling to me. But if you are somebody who's invested money in acrylic signs that are professionally printed, that look very nice, that are hung really thoughtfully and creatively throughout your business, as opposed to, again, just printed paper taped all over the place, it's really going to elevate your business and encourage people to book those higher ticket parties, spend more money with you. Because again, there's nothing worse than an absolutely beautiful interior with random signage that's covered in tape residue and stuff like that, just tarnishing the entire look and feel of your space. So two perfect examples of businesses who do signage really well, and I'm talking here about interior signage, is Poppy Tots Play Cafe. She has absolutely beautiful acrylic branded signs all over her play area, on her play area gate. When you walk in, I think it's absolutely beautiful. And again, it really makes her space so cohesive and so well thought out that it just brings everything together. And it really, again, makes a huge difference. Another business is Tiffany's My Play Cafe, which I feature all the time on this YouTube channel. She's a friend in addition to a Playmaker Society member. She started as a member and then became a friend. So I visited her space in person, and she uses like mixed tiles to not only display some signage throughout her building, but also she has mixed tiles, so those like press on canvases to showcase birthday parties, classes, kids playing in her facility. So I absolutely love that she does that because, again, I've seen tons of places just tape pictures or, you know, pin pictures to walls and things like that. And I just think it offers such an elevated, beautiful experience. And it really just brings everything together and, again, translates into what should be a wonderful customer experience. So I hope this part 2 of my splurge versus save series was helpful to you. Again, follow, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Hit the like button if this video was helpful. Leave a comment if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about. All of my socials are linked in the video description. All of my paid and free resources are there as well. Thank you so much for spending so much time with me throughout this splurge versus save series. Again, I could talk about this all day, so sorry that this one and the last one were so long, but I really think this stuff is important, especially if you are budget conscious and want your vision to come to life in a cost-effective manner. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys soon. Bye for now.